Okay, we're going to continue to look at some more things here. Now, when we're looking at this first problem up here, we're dealing with all addition. And well, we don't really need the parentheses when you're dealing with all addition because you can add numbers in any order you want. So to work it out, you could just go like this if you wanted, and then just add numbers together. However, when you're dealing with the next one, because we have a subtraction sign here, the order in which you subtract stuff does make a difference. So when you're dealing with subtraction of things, you need to be a little bit more concerned than when you're dealing with addition. Now, when you look down here at the bottom, the very bottom one is a plus sign. So you're just adding things together. Well, the order in which you add doesn't make a difference, so you can just write it without the parentheses and work it out. And then all you can do is combine like terms. However, when you look at the one right above it, there's nothing in between, so it's multiplication. So just be aware that these two are totally different. We need to be paying attention to the signs and operations of what's going on in between our parentheses when we're looking at these problems. So when we're looking here, we have subtraction. If it was addition, we could just drop the parentheses and go and combine like terms. But here we'd have to go ahead and distribute this negative through. So we don't need these parentheses, so I can just drop that. Distribute through the subtraction sign, and I get this, and then I get a positive v squared. So now I can go ahead and combine like terms, and I would get a 5. And then when I look here, negative 4 of the v squareds plus 5 of the v squareds would be 1 of the v squareds, and so I would get this. Over here on the right, because we have an addition sign, the order in which you add doesn't make a difference. We don't really need any of the parentheses, so I'm going to just go ahead and write it without the parentheses. And then all we have to do is consider like terms. Now, like terms need to have the same variables with the same exponents. 8 of the n cubes plus 2 more of the n cubes is 10 of the x cubes, or n cubes. And then I'm going to look here. I have 2 n squared. Well, don't have any other n squareds. And then I'll take a look here. I have 7 of the n's minus 6 of the n's is 1 of those n's. And so I would just get this when I combine like terms. Now, looking at this problem, it's really a multiplication here. I only have one thing in front times 2 things on the inside. So I need to take and distribute this through. So if I take the 4p cubed times my 3p, I get a 12p to the 4th. And then I would need to take my 4p cubed times my minus 3, which would be then a negative 12p cubed. And here we're trying to write it without parentheses, and we're going to go ahead and combine any like terms we happen to have. These exponents are different down here in the blue and the green, so we can't do anything more. We are not going to pull anything out because that would be factoring. And we're not trying to factor here because factoring you leave stuff with parentheses. Here we're trying to get rid of the parentheses. Looking at the next problem, there's nothing in between our parentheses, so it's multiplication. And so all we have to do is go ahead and take and multiply together our first terms, basically double distribution. And then I'm going to go ahead and multiply my outer terms. And then I'm going to go ahead and multiply my inner terms. And then I'll multiply my last terms. And then I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. And while the only like terms I have are my normal k's there in the middle. And so I'll minus 10 of the k minus 4 of the k is minus 14 of the k's, and still bring this down. Now, that was taking 2 terms from 2 terms. We're really pretty much doing the same type of thing down below here because it's multiplication in between our parentheses. So I need to take this 8x times this first term, and that's be a 64x cubed. I need to take an 8x times the next one, and well, that would be a 56x squared. And then I need to take this 8x times my last term here, and well, that would then be a 48x. Then I need to take this negative 8 right here times each one of these. So negative 8 times this would be a negative 64x squared. Negative 8 times this would be a minus 56x. And then this times this would be a minus 48. Now you'll notice we do have some like terms. We only have one cube, so I'll leave that, but I have some squareds here and I have some squareds here, and so that 56 of the x squareds minus 64 of the x squareds gives me a minus 8 of the x squareds. And then we go ahead and we look at, we have 48 of the x minus 56 x's, and that leaves us with a minus 8x. And then we can go ahead and also just bring this down. We don't have any like terms. And so this would be our answer. Remember, we're trying to write it without parentheses and combining like terms. When you are dividing by one term, remember terms are things added together or subtracted. So here we have 1, 2, 3. So in the parentheses we have 3 terms or a trinomial. But we are dividing it by only one term. When you're dividing by one term, all you have to do is take each one of your other terms and put it over that one thing you were dividing by. So we take our first term divided by our one term. Or take our next term from here divided by what we were in the red box. And then all we have to do is simplify these fractions. When you look at this first fraction here, 24 over 6, you should know is 4. Which one has more a's, the top or the bottom? The top does by 2 of them, so it's an a squared. Really, we're left with a 1 in the bottom, but dividing by 1 doesn't change it. And well, then we go ahead and bring down that plus sign, and we look at simplifying the next fraction. When we look at the next fraction right here, 3 over 6 goes down to a 1 over a 2. And then when you look at the a's, which one has more a's, the top or the bottom? Well, the top does, and it has one more a. Now, you should know that we don't necessarily have to go and write this one because 1 times anything doesn't change it. And then we can go ahead and take a look at our last one here. And here we have an a to the first and top, a to the first and the bottom. They're the same. Our 4 over our 6 reduces down to a 2/3, and we have that plus sign in front. So when you're dividing by one term like this, you can write them as separate fractions and then just go ahead and simplify. Now, just as a follow-up here, are all 3 of these problems the same? No, you need to be paying attention to what's going on in between the parentheses. Here, there's nothing written, so it's multiplication. So you'd have to do the double distribution. Looking at the blue one, it's a big plus sign in between. Remember, when you're adding in between your parentheses, you don't need a parentheses, so you can just write it without the parentheses and work it out. Looking at the orange ones, you have a subtraction sign. So remember, when you're dealing with subtracting, you can then just distribute that through and then combine like terms. So pay attention to what's going on in between your parentheses, and it'll help you know what to do.